Louis Sullivan's influence on architecture. This is the topic that I'm gonna talk about in this presentation. I'm gonna be mainly focused on basically like on the influence he had in the development of the architecture in that time. So basically, the changes in architecture. The architecture has been constantly changing throughout history. This is due to some factors, for example, like the materials that were available in that time, the location of the architects, and also like the architect area was like some of the areas that had the most drastic changes through history. Alright, so I would like to explain or to present like some of the architects that had an influence in the architect area. So one of them is Louis Sullivan. Louis Sullivan was one of the most prominent architects in history. He was associated with Adler's firm. They both created like more than 100 buildings. They designed more than 100 buildings. And Sullivan was known as the father of modernism because of his earlier design in buildings. So the association improved Sullivan's career because like Sullivan was the one with the idea, but Adler had the business model. So so the influence in the 20th century. Was one of the greatest influencers in terms of modernism. He reached fame when he designed the auditorium building. Most of his artwork was in Chicago, so all the buildings he designed are located in Chicago, and they actually are in good conditions. Sullivan was the inspiration of other architects, for example, Frank Lloyd Wright. Sullivan was his mentor, but unfortunately, the friendship had to had to end because Frank Lloyd Wright was like stealing his ideas and sharing with other people. Alright, so some important facts about Sullivan. Sullivan's journey failed at the beginning, but later on, his designs became really famous when he designed the auditorium building in Chicago. So these are some examples of his design. For example, like you can see that he was very passionate when it comes to designing big buildings, all things, auditoriums, and basically, or in conclusion, Sullivan was one of the greatest earlier designers of that time, and he influenced that era of the modernism and the architect.